What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to the brother Aram for his donation to the channel via the PayPal. Much respect to him for showing love to Too Raw for TV. All right, so Aram left a message. He said, "This is controversial, but I've always thought that David Robinson was a better player than Hakeem Olajuwon. What do you think, Mike? Hakeem gets all the flowers and the top 10 nods, but Robinson was better, in my opinion." Thanks, Mike. Um, well, see, this is the thing. Younger people are going to find that statement cap, as they say, right? That's cap. How is it possible? Even people my age, um, and even people who are older than me, people that's Aram's age. Don't want to put his age out there, but I know how old he is. Even in that generation, sometimes you can be the victim of hindsight, or you know, we tend to remember moments, series, individual games that stand out, and when you do that, then it looks like it's not even close. It's laughable to say Hakeem and Robinson are even equal, let alone Robinson being better. Could we think about the 1995 Western Conference series when Robinson was severely outplayed by Hakeem Olajuwon in that series? I think Robinson averaged 23 points a game. I think Olajuwon averaged like 34, 35. I can't remember. It was ridiculous. And man, he was just making like an amateur out there. Now remember, this is the same Darren Robinson that was the league MVP in 1995. This is the same Darren Robinson that, matter of fact, wasn't he the? Let me see something. Was he Defensive Player of the Year in '95? Darren Robinson. I know he was always considered one of the best defensive players in the league. Let me see something. No, it's Mutombo. Matter of fact, it's the first. Was that the first year Mutombo won it? That's the first year Mutombo won it. But Dave Robinson was Defensive Player of the Year in 91, 92. I remember him winning it one year. So this is a former Defensive Player of the Year winner, one of the top defenders in the NBA, the league's reigning MVP at the time. Matter of fact, he just got the trophy, if I'm not mistaken, before the start of that series. So Hakeem Olajuwon was livid, and he showed the world who the real MVP was. And consequently, they won the championship, sweeping the heavily favored Orlando Magic. Now, remember that, and so it just seems laughable. But if you can go back to 1992, go back to 1993, go back to 1994, if you were to say Darren Robinson was better than Hakeem Olajuwon at that time, not that many people would be laughing at you. And I'm referencing stats. Now, these aren't my stats that I researched. These are stats that have been authenticated and was presented on Reddit years ago, right? And it's a comparison with Darren Robinson and Hakeem Olajuwon for their careers, right? Darren Robinson has the better advanced stats compared to Hakeem Olajuwon. His career box plus minus, which we always reference to shit on LeBron James, his average per game box plus minus was 7.4 compared to Olajuwon's 4.9. Matter of fact, both his offensive box plus minus and defensive box plus minus scores were higher than Hakeem Olajuwon's. Robinson also had an unbelievable net rating of +20. Robinson had a career PER of 26.2, compared to Olajuwon's 23.6. Robinson had a true shooting percentage of .583. This is when we had an era of competitive centers going at each other. So, Olajuwon's had a true shooting percentage of .553. Robinson had a much higher free throw rate of .577 compared to .363 for Olajuwon, and a better career free throw percentage. Robinson has the higher career offensive rating and defensive rating. Olajuwon has the most blocks in NBA history, 3,830, although we always put an asterisk on that because remember, they weren't counting blocks when Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell was playing, and for that matter, also Nate Thurman, And for the first 4 years, I believe, of Kareem's career, they didn't count blocks because if they did, Kareem probably would have over 4,000 career blocks. So really, King's probably at most fourth, possibly fifth all time in career blocks. Probably fifth. If there was a list of blocks, if they counted blocks before, let's put it like this. If they counted blocks from 1946 or 1949 onward, it would probably be Wilt Chamberlain number 1, Bill Russell number 2, Nate Thurman number 3, Kareem number 4, Hakeem number 5. George Mikan would be in there somewhere too. But anyway, let's move on. Hakeem is also the only player to win MVP, Finals MVP, and Defensive Player of the Year in the same year. Both players won a sole league MVP, 1995 Robinson, 1994 Hakeem Olajuwon, and both were taken number 1 overall in their draft years. Olajuwon number 1 in 84 over Michael Jordan, obviously, number 3. Number 2 was some guy named Sam Bowie that Portland took. I know they regret that. And Dave Robinson was number 1 in 87, actually, although he didn't play until 89. Olajuwon was the best player on the back-to-back finals teams, besting David Robinson badly in 95 to get there. Robinson was considered to be on much better teams, in particular after the arrival of Tim Duncan. And of course, this skews some of his advanced stats a bit. He also never led a team to a title, only when it went, as I said, Tim Duncan was the best player on the Spurs. However, Robinson aged very well and was productive, especially on defense, for years. Both players had a quadruple-double in a game, being 2 of the 4 in official NBA history to do so. Official. The other 2, I believe, are Nate Thurman and I think Alvin Robertson. Although it's been pretty much documented that Wilt Chamberlain had a quintuple-double and probably had numerous quadruple-doubles. So this is the thing. Both won championships. Robinson never won Finals MVP. Olajuwon won that twice. Defensive Player of the Year, Robinson won that once. Hakeem Olajuwon won that twice. So let's look at something else here. Let's look at resume. During the regular season, Robinson beat Olajuwon 30 out of 42 regular season games. 30 out of 42 regular season games. In the playoffs, though, they went against each other once. Hakeem Olajuwon won that series 4-2. I mean, it's a team thing, but you know how that is. Dave Robinson played 987 games. Olajuwon 1,238 games. So you could also make an argument that since Hakeem Olajuwon played longer, 18 seasons I think it is, Dave Robinson played was 15 years. I know he missed basically a year. He played 14 years. He played 14 years. So that means that King probably has more accumulative numbers, but by Olajuwon playing so many more years past his prime, his per game averages probably be a little bit lower. Points per game, 21.8 for Olajuwon, 21.1 for Robinson. Rebounds per game, 11.1 for Hakeem, 10.6 for Dave Robinson. So it's actually not happening. Assists per game, 2.5 for each one. Steals per game, Olajuwon with another advantage, 1.7 to 1.4 for Dave Robinson. Blocks per game, slight advantage for Olajuwon, 3.1 to 3. Field goal percentage, slight advantage for Robinson, 51.8%, 51.2%. 3-point percentage, negligible. Although the slight advantage to Dave Robinson, 25%, 20.2% for Olajuwon. Free throw percentage, Dave Robinson, 73.6%, Hakeem Olajuwon, 71.2%. Effective field goal percentage, as I already said, Robinson, the advantage there. BPM, advantage, I've already said it before, advantage, Robinson over Hakeem Olajuwon. VORP, Olajuwon at a disadvantage over Dave Robinson, 81.9, 74.2. Both are in the Hall of Fame. Both won 2 championships. First team All NBA, Hakeem 6, Dave Robinson 4. All NBA selections, Hakeem 12, the Admiral 10. All defensive selections, Hakeem 9, Robinson 8. And All-Star selections, Olajuwon 12, the Admiral 10. And we look at head-to-head stats. Dave Robinson, in those 42 games, 19.6 points, 11.2 rebounds, 2.9 assists, 2.2 steals, 3.3 blocks on, I don't know if I see the shooting on here. They don't have the shooting percentage. But when I look at it, it seems like he shot a little bit under 50% against Dave Robinson. Hakeem Olajuwon, 21.9 points, 11.3 rebounds, 2.8 assists, 1.9 steals, 3.4 blocks. And it looks like he, against David Robinson, also shot under 50%. So they did a good job on defense against one another. Matter of fact, now I see it. David Robinson shot 48.8% against Hakeem. Hakeem only shot 44.1% against David Robinson. So yeah, David Robinson actually had the advantage over Hakeem Olajuwon when you look at it, man. So look, man, honestly, when you look deeper and don't go off of what you feel, there's a case that David Robinson has had the better overall. He might have been better. But this is the thing. A young David Robinson was one of the physical marvels in NBA history. I mean, he was literally getting comparisons to Wilt Chamberlain. He would run the floor like a gazelle. I mean, he was jumping out of the gym. David Robinson before 1995, 96, 96, I'd say, was an absolute beast. Had the mid range. He was a beast at the post. His J was probably, don't get me wrong, Hakeem Olajuwon had range, but Dave Robinson's J, like his 14, 15-foot mid range, that free throw line jumper was money. He was more athletic than Hakeem Olajuwon. I mean, how many times we see this doing highlights, like jumping out the gym, catching alley-oop dunks? He was just as good a rebounder as Hakeem. He was a stat stuffer, getting steals, blocks. He was doing all that stuff. He was doing everything Hakeem was doing, but was doing it. He looked better doing it. The problem is, I think Hakeem was more clutch. Hakeem was more clutch. Hakeem was more battle tested, and he just was hard. He was, what's the word I'm looking for? He was tougher. He was tougher. That was the one knock on David Robinson, and we all remember this. Who remember that era? The one knock on David Robinson was that he was too nice. He was too nice, and he didn't have that killer that Hakeem Olajuwon had, that Bill Russell had, that Shaq had, you know, that Kobe, Mike, Magic. But that's what separated him from those guys. David Robinson had all the tools to be on those guys' level, and he is still a top 20 all-time player, in my opinion. But he just lacked that thing that those guys had. It was too nice. And I will say this too, because I gotta be fair. Before Tim Duncan got there, David Robinson's teams weren't really that good. I mean, he really was carrying those squads. Like, I mean, yeah, he had Ross Strickland for a while. He had Terry Cummins. I think that was after. Was that after the knee injury? Can't remember. He had 1 year. I think it was the year that he was injured. Excuse me, Dominic Wilkins came off the bench, but he could never get over the hump. You know, he couldn't get over the hump of those other guys. He couldn't get past, you know, whether you're talking about Hakeem Olajuwon, he couldn't get past the Phoenix Suns, he couldn't get past, you know, Sean Kemp and Gary Payton. He couldn't get past the Portland Trailblazers. He couldn't get past, you know, certain teams. It was only when Tim Duncan got there that they started winning. So I'm going to say Hakeem Olajuwon is more accomplished than David Robinson. But this is the power of narratives. This is how narratives can brainwash people. David Robinson, you can make a case he was better than Hakeem Olajuwon during the regular season. During the regular season, he was better. As you saw, the 42 matchups, career-wise, David Robinson's teams won 30 of those 42 games. That accounts for something. And with the numbers, we can't even say it's pace thing because the Rockets generally played a fast pace. So, especially for that era, so we can't say that David Robinson's numbers are inflated. Robinson, I think, was more impactful. I remember that being the conversation before the championships. But then when Hakeem did what he did in those 94, 95 playoffs, especially 95, when he was the best player on the planet, you know, we had to look at things a little differently. That's why I always say sometimes numbers don't tell the whole story. So I'm going to say this. To me, from the eye test, despite what the numbers say, because I look at playoffs, Hakeem was just more determined than David Robinson. David Robinson liked basketball a lot, and he liked going out there and producing. But he didn't have that extra gear that those other guys had. He didn't have that meanness in him. You know what I'm saying? It's just a separation. It's the same thing with LeBron. LeBron's stats are incredible, right? The numbers look great. But the eye test? Anyway, so I go with Hakeem on this one, man. Aaron, I got to go with Hakeem. Yeah, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.